time is it?
59.
Oh, perfect. So you're going to go off the Facebook with me in 1 minute?
I will be in the chat typing to you.
Okay.
Just like it'll be just you on video.
All right. Very, very good. So Sun Yun Kim is watching, which is absolutely wonderful. Hello, Sunny. You are at... Turn the camera around. You are at All of the Emotions, one-on-one with Patricia Angelin. Thank you for coming. What is on your emotional mind? We're here for the next half an hour, and I can answer any of your questions or a couple of other ones that have been given to me in advance. And I see that Yun Sun Kim is here. Hello, Sunny. I'm very, very happy that you've joined us. Do let me know if there is anything that is instantaneously on your mind that has been happening to you emotionally. But while you're thinking about that, I'm going to start out with a question that was given to me earlier today, off the cuff, not through the Facebook, but directly to me. And this individual is an actor who said, I'm worried about going back on a set, most understandably with COVID. Any tips to calm the anxiety of not truly knowing if COVID standards will be kept? That's a brilliant question. And the answer to that is that everybody is worried with COVID. And you have to understand that that's normal inside yourself, that it's not weird, that everybody all over the world is worried about that we all have what I call a through-base drone of anxiety going through our lives that has been really very long. It's been happening since, in my case, since March. In some people's cases, since even January or February. And now I spoke to Ireland yesterday, and in Ireland and in the UK, new lockdowns are coming. My driver, I took a Lyft for the first time in almost 7 months this afternoon because, oh my goodness, you can see I've gone through security check at the radiologist to have a bone density exam today. So so everybody is concerned. I had a little fillip of, oh my goodness, I'm going to go on a Lyft. I haven't gone on a Lyft. This is a driver. How do I know? Well, risk assessment, men and women. So the first thing I would like to say in regard to this most excellent question about being worried about going back on a set, I will have a very practical answer to this that we'll put up on the Alba Technique page, because SAG-AFTRA, I think it was yesterday, came out with a whole new set of guidelines of what actors are supposed to do, what producers are supposed to do, what PAs are supposed to do, everybody on set, as in New York anyway, and I think in LA as well, the episodics come back online. One of the Alba women is going to do Blacklist, but they haven't told her when she's shooting today. It's a network show. So there are a whole new things, and I think everybody needs to read these things, because right now with our low levels of anxiety, popping up into high levels and acute levels of anxiety, and the cortisol drop that comes in with that, and everything that we're all dealing with, perhaps for the foreseeable future, we need to be dealing with it. So the first thing would be to read the SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists paper. They spent months figuring this stuff out. It'll have all the latest, and it's their roadmap for how to be safe on set yourself and keep others safe. So I think these rules are something that you want to look at and read, even if you are non-union. Because even if you are non-union, you want to know what the norms are, what the protocols are. You want to be able to say to your non-union producer before you take the job, will you be doing X? Will you be doing Y? Will everyone be masked until scenes? What are your cleaning protocols, etc., etc., etc. So you'll be able to ask the proper professional questions. that would be what I would say to you, Katie, about that right now. So for you who are listening, we will put that up in the Alba Technique page as soon as Alex can get to it within the next 24 to 48 hours. And we will definitely do that. And it's a real question, and it's a real concern. And from then, I would like to move over to, it's already done. Here is the link to the work agreement, says Katie. We will be putting out a more comprehensive post on everything later on. Thank you so much, Katie. I think that it brought another question to my mind, is that everything is a risk assessment right now. And if one is a good person, one is thinking about one's own risks, depending upon health, age, the obvious things, and also about our colleagues and our friends and people we don't even know, just in common human solidarity. I heard that in Dublin, Ireland, they're about to go into lockdown again in the big city. Those of us who live in big cities, we do need to be aware that we must be perhaps more prudent in different ways than people who live in lots of fresh air and out in the country. I live in New York. I'm very sorry to hear the new news about Dublin going into lockdown. But I was speaking with someone who is in Wexford right now, and they are not, that's in the southeast of Ireland, they're not going into lockdown. But I could hear the fear in his voice that it would also lock them down again. It's human, it's understandable. In regard to other risk assessment behaviors emotionally, I have decided that I am going to go and visit a friend flying from New York to St. Paul, Minnesota, which is in northern Minnesota in the United States, because they lost a son, their eldest son, to COVID, to a heart attack in his 30s, to a heart attack that was COVID triggered. And my dear friend and his wife need some support. I couldn't go to the funeral, obviously. You know, the funeral was 6 weeks ago. But I've decided that in November, I am going to take the risk. I am going to don my N95 mask. I am going to do all of the things hygienically that I know very well how to do, coming from a medical family. And I am going to board that plane, and I am going to go. And then I am going to go by private transportation. My friend will drive me down to my home place in Wisconsin, where I will visit my 93-year-old uncle who's had COVID. Now, once I made that decision, having talked to a number of people, looked at the science as of 3 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden the science is changing and there are new reports. So I naturally had new anxieties. Am I going to be putting my 93-year-old uncle at risk? What about staying in the home of my dear friends who have lost my dear Matthew? You know, all of these things, they go through our minds. I think we have to accept, really accept, that these things are not going to go away very soon. Sigh. A sigh is good. Allow yourself to sigh. Even talking about it has made me anxious, so a sigh. Oh, it's a very, very good thing to do. You make your risk, you make your assessment, then you know moment to moment how you're feeling about that decision that you have made. I can always decide not to go on that airplane if things get worse. Just because I have an airplane ticket does not mean I have to use it. So, such things as assessing things in that way, reading the white paper for Screen Actors Guild, these put us in small ways in just a little bit, just a soupçon of a feeling of more control in our lives. We're in a pandemic. We don't have control. That's reality. That's accurate. So find the laughs where you can find them, men and women. Support each other in the ways that you can. Another thing that I wanted to talk about in this risk assessment was something that actually happened to me today. So by telling you this, you will be able to hear how somebody who is very, very, very good at knowing what emotions are happening in my own body dealt with this. I have been more or less in lockdown since the 10th of March. On the 10th of March, I had my last live one-on-one with anyone. And then I was quarantined, as it were. Isolated would be the better word, because I was not ill, all the way into June. But in June, another disability that I have, which is a heat disability from too many, I've had several on-set incidents over many years of heat stroke and sunstroke. So at this point, my body does not perspire. So talk about fear, and it's a legitimate fear, because I cannot get too warm, because my body doesn't have the normal, natural human cooling mechanism, which is sweat. So a fan won't help. A fan doesn't help unless you have sweat on your body in order to be evaporated to cool. So you get the idea. So today we had lovely fall weather this last week, and I had this appointment of very long standing. So I needed a bone density and had to go to a radiologist. I made a risk assessment. It's 81 degrees in New York. Yeah, thought I, but it was cool over the last few days, so the sidewalks and the buildings aren't heated up. There's a nice breeze. There's low humidity. Well, more risk assessment. Pat, don't get cocky. Take a lift. Well, lifts have their own dangers. Take a lift. So I took a lift to the appointment. Fine. Did the appointment. Came out of the appointment. There's a cool breeze coming off the New York estuary. I was only about a half a mile away from my apartment and studio. I thought, oh, you can do this. You can just. Oh, beware of the you can just. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. So I went off and I started to walk, and I am enjoying it. Oh my gosh, it was good to be out. It was so good. I walked through Union Square Park. I stopped at the farmer's market and bought fresh eggs. It was, oh, I can't tell you how wonderful it was. So I was feeling uplifted. I was feeling joyous. And I'm walking out and I'm seeing people, and I was happy that there are some sidewalk cafes that have few socially distanced tables, and they were serving, and I'm grateful that some businesses are trying to hang on. So all of this is going on emotionally as I'm walking from about when it would have been about 15th Street, I think, and Madison Avenue up to, by the time I got to about 17th Street, with this particular disability, one of the first things, I never feel like I'm hot. That's one of the problems. It's tough to assess. The risk is tough to assess. So I started to feel as though I was just going down, like I was being pulled from below. And when I noticed that in my body, this is purely somatic, I went, oh no, are you too hot? Oh my gosh, should you take a taxi? Should you call a lift? What you should do? So I had that fear, I had that anxiety come in. So I thought, now Pat, you've just had not COVID, shows you, right? You've just had a cortisol dump in your body. My body, I was feeling agitated. I could feel the agitation. It's normal. And I went by Godiva chocolate. Godiva. And I thought, why don't you you used to love when you were living in Vienna, in Austria, you used to love the real hot chocolate, and in Paris. So that would give you a little bit of caffeine, and it'd give you some sugar, it'd give you some electrolytes. Why don't you go in there, patronize a business that's had to have been closed for ages, and do that. So I sat down with my hot chocolate, and I got up, and I thought, oh boy, you're still not okay. You know, you're at 17th Street, you've got to go up more than 10 blocks, and of course, typically, I had decided, I'm out, I'll go to the grocery store, I'll go to all of these other places. Well, not a good idea in risk assessment. If you're feeling emotionally, it's a good cue. Pay attention to your emotions. Pay attention to what you're really feeling. So I called my sister, and because I just wanted another human being to run something past, because she knows about the disability. And she said, oh, Pat, take a taxi. I said, there aren't any taxis, Maureen, it's in COVID. There aren't just taxis driving down the street like there used to be when you lived in New York. Half of them were going out of business, you know, so I'm like, blah. I thought, Pat, you've got to relax. I said, I'm gonna go, Maureen. I'll let you know when I get home. I've just got to save all my energy, damp it down, breathe well, and just walk slowly. It'll be fine. And just then she says, well, there's got to be a cab. And I look to my left, and there's an old-fashioned New York taxi cab with the light above the hood lit, which meant it's available and it's open for a person to ride in it. And so I said, taxi! And I got in the cab and I went. Then, poor risk assessment, I had him let me off a block away because I didn't want to spend the money, because of course I, like so many of us, have no money right now, which is another fear. And so I had him drop me off on my block, so I would have had 3/4 of a block, city block to block. Halfway down, I stumbled. A woman in front of me said, are you all right? And we're all masked, of course. And I said, yes, I'm fine. I said, New York sidewalks, they reach up and grab you. You know, ha, 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 ha. She says, no, seriously, are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm a half a block from home. I will be okay. It'll be fine. Thank you so much for checking. So good of you to ask. And she says, no problem. You know, be safe, which is what everybody's saying to people now. So I got home, and when I got up, I made myself some coffee, just for the oomph and the bump, because I knew I needed to talk to all of you. And I'm a little bit dizzy-ish, so I need to remind myself to breathe. And the good news is that I did everything I needed to do today. I assessed the risks, but I made some mistakes. And that is what I think I wanted to tell you today, is you pay attention to your emotions, because whenever you make a risk assessment, it's already fraught. And if you find in your risk assessment you've made a mistake and you're having other emotions about it, what you decided to do, allow yourself to observe what your emotion is and to make another decision. Whether it's to walk away from somebody who's not wearing a mask, you can always say, excuse me, I'm not feeling very well. I need to go now. Or, you know, you don't, because a lot of people will get into fights with you about masks these days. You just don't need it. Your limbic system, your neural system does not need to be in fights with people right now, because the anxiety of the COVID frequently gives way to what I call COVID anger, which we see all over the news, all over the place right now. We'll continue to see it. As people's fears get deeper and broader, and this thing just doesn't go away, this dumb old bug, you know, the people are going to also get more depressed and they're going to get more angry. So that is the answer to that question. Anybody else? Anybody else who's online have any thoughts? I see one. One listener says, I am wondering why I cry when I am extremely happy. That's just such a wonderful question. And it's not a universal thing that happens. Not everybody cries when they're happy, Sunny, but plenty of us do. Sometimes we even cry when we've been laughing, and tears start to come out of our eyes just because we're laughing so hard. One of the many complicated reasons it could be is that your body is simply too uptight. There's so much uptightness in that as you're feeling up and happy, your body gives you some signs of sadness because it's trying to release muscles. Your body's trying to assist you in your joy, as it were. Our bodies are so smart. So your body knows that you are too happy to be having the amount of maybe anxiety that you've had, and that you need the muscles to be released, or you need more moisture in your eyes, so you'll get the tears. So you can listen to your body. Please don't be embarrassed about that. It's a natural human thing that many of us have. And even some of us who have never had it before might find at some point in future you'll go, oh my gosh, I'm laughing so hard I'm crying. Or I'm simply joyous. Why am I all of a sudden feel like I want to cry? So that, I think, is a very, very good answer to that. See if there was more to that question or not. And she also asked, would I be able to shed any light on the joy and sadness combo? Yes, I think I just did that very well. We have another question. What is the best way to deal with other people putting their frustrations onto you when you cannot, cannot remove yourself from the situation? Okay, I'll repeat that. What is the best way to deal with other people putting their frustrations onto you when you cannot remove yourself from a situation, such as dealing with a customer at a restaurant or in a store? This is brilliant. Again, something that many of us have to deal with. Now, to a degree, it depends upon what the social situation you are in vis-a-vis that particular patron. If you are the server and an employee of the restaurant, there's one challenge. If you're the manager of that restaurant, it's another challenge. If you are simply another patron, then you have a lot more latitude. But in any way, you don't want to up the ante, to make the frequencies of this rise. Because there are many people who have very poor emotional control for many reasons. And when they get angry, and frustration is an aspect of anger, it doesn't help to say to the person, why are you angry with me? I am not involved in doing the thing that is making you frustrated. Unfortunately, that doesn't help, because most of the time the person will just say to you, I'm not angry. Like, how angry did I just sound, right? Because most people are not self-aware. Most people do no mindfulness. Most people know nothing about their bodies. All they do is go from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other, which is why I founded Alba Technique, to help people deal with our, because we all have it, emotional reactivity in a good and beautiful way. So without you telling me the precise situation you were in, I can't be specific about it, but I can offer the suggestion and the observation of this, that if somebody is throwing his or her frustrations onto you, your body will feel that. And what your body will probably do is experience some level of what that person is doing. So if they're mad about a situation, they're going to be throwing their anger at you, and so you're going to start to get angry. And in social situations, that is usually not helpful in dealing with the situation, and everybody goes away feeling worse. So I would say that if you can't fully remove yourself from the situation, I would say that you can. If it's bad, that most situations, believe it or not, you can momentarily. All you do is is commiserate with the person for a moment, go, oh my gosh, I totally hear you. 1 second, I'll be right back. Hold the thought. And then you just go away from the person, so that your mirror neurons in your gut, because we know that the flora of the gut, the flora of the gut communicates with each other, which is why having a healthy flora in your digestive system is so important, as we're finding, because literally the glial cells, they talk to each other, as it were, and they're social, and they help us, the mirror neurons, as they're called. So we're going to be feeling what the other person is feeling, an aspect of it, unless we have Asperger's or something like that. And sometimes you get with you deal with it does seem socially now that there are more people who are lacking in emotional ability to read social cues of others, and what they appear to, like most of us, is they appear just not to care. And to a degree that's accurate, because they're not wired like we are. So if you're dealing with somebody who seems to be uncaring about anyone but themselves, take a breath, acknowledge to them that you hear them and that they're frustrated, and that tell them that you will be right back. And then go to the back of the room, walk out of the door for 2 seconds so that you can get 3 breaths in, 3 breaths so that you can come back into yourself and you can center into you as opposed to be with what they're throwing at you. And then once you straighten yourself up and shut your eyes to release the orbs of the eyes and all the tension that would be in them, and maybe let yourself have a nice sigh. Then back in you go, or from the back of the room, or from the side of the room, or whatever. You go back to the person and you go, oh, yes, okay, now, what can we do? What can we do to fix this? And of course, they're still stuck in what they're stuck in, but at least you know that it's not yours anymore. And that will help you feel less out of control. Just because somebody else is out of control doesn't mean that you need to let them make you out of control. There's too many people who think the volatility of their emotions are who they are. And for a person to be affirming and accepting of them as individuals, the rest of us have to be affirming and accepting of whatever emotion they're in at the moment, however unattractive it is. And that simply isn't true. And you need to know and let yourself know that that's not true. And that their emotions are not your responsibility, that you will assist in any way you possibly can, but how they're feeling is not your fault. The blame for how they are feeling is not yours. You will assist them. You will acknowledge to them that you see and you're completely sympathetic with their major frustrations because, you know, this food did not come very quickly, or it isn't hot enough for you, or you asked for a condiment on the side that hasn't come, whatever. I'm making it all up, of course. But these things are going to happen. They're going to be happening more and more frequently because people are very frustrated and they're out of control. So if you need more than that, Alex, you would need to give me the specific situation and I would answer the specific situation. But as a generality, you know, for all of us, I hope that helps. Okay, we're almost finished for today, and I don't see that there's anything else that is poor wireless connection. So what I will do is I will share with you a beautiful poem that I use in my somatic sensing classes. And it is by the wonderful poet Lucille Clifton, and it's entitled Blessing the Boats at St. Mary's. May the tide that is even now entering the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. Blessings upon all of you, and we will let you know on the Alba Technique page when we are going to be doing this again. My assistant and I were thinking of next Wednesday at 1:30 New York time, which would be what? I think that's 10:30 in LA and 12:30 in Chicago and 6:30 in London and Dublin and 7:30 in Amsterdam. So watch the Alba Technique page and Instagram for when we will next do this, and think of your questions. It can be anything that is on your mind about your emotions or other people's emotions. And I will just sit here for the next minute or two and breathe and center myself after my ordeal. And it was an ordeal. And allow my body systems to calm down with the difficult day that I've had. And I see the beautiful, wonderful little icons of hearts rising from Katie McConaughey down in Alexandria, Virginia. Hello, my dear friend and colleague. And I hope to hear from all of you again and field your questions or the questions of your students or the questions of your family. And all is well. I'm going to use one of the self-calming techniques. Breathing in and out. Giving myself a hug. Excellent. Even that much helps. Thank you so, so much. And now, of course, I don't know how to finish this. That's so me. God bless you all.